Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Tech Viral, and we are going very good in our Python tutorials, and we have covered functions. So now we have gone over on writing about functions. So it's important to understand that how Python deals with the variable names you assign. And when you create a variable name in Python, the name is stored in a namespace. So variable names also have a scope, and the scope determines the visibility of that variable name to other parts of your code. So let's try an experiment here. So x is equal to 25, let's say, and let's we define a function printer where I am just setting the x is equal to 50, okay, which was earlier 25, and I am returning x. Okay, now let's print x, and now let's print printer. Okay, so what do you think, what will be the output, whether it will be 25 and 50, or 50-50, or 25-25? So what do you think? So let's run this. So when I will run this, then you can see the output is 25 and then 50. So what happened is that first this line was executed and the value of x was 25. Then this line is executed, and here the we assigned the value as 50. So the x is now 50. It will return the 50 and it will override this x and it will print 50. So do you imagine the output? So basically uh, we can say that it could be 25-25. No, it cannot be. So why I'm saying this? Let's print x again. What will be the output now? This is interesting. Okay, so now it's 25-50, and now it's again 25. So when it overrided it, then how it can be possible? So this is interesting. So but how does Python knows which x you are referring to? Okay, so basically this means that they are two different x's. Okay, first x was for 25 and second one is for 50. Okay, but they are two different. So how Python is knowing that which x we are referring to? So this is where the idea of a scope comes in. Okay, so Python has a set of rules it follows to decide what variables, such as x in this case, you are referencing in your code. So let's break down the rules. Okay, so the idea of scope in your code is very important to understand in order to properly assign and call variable names. So basically, in simple terms, the idea of scope can be described by three general rules. Okay, so first one is that name assignments will create or change local names by default. Okay, so name assignment will be create or change local names by default. Second is name references search four scopes. These are local, enclosing functions, global, and built-in. We'll cover this. You have to just note it down somewhere. And names declared in global and non-local statements map assigned names to enclosing modules and function scope. So this is just this definition in Python's. Uh, you can say Python's Python's documentation. So let's just remember this by a rule which I say is LEGB rule. Okay, so what is this LEGB rule? Okay, so L for local, which means that name assigned in a way within a function. E is enclosing function locals, which is name in the local scope of any and all enclosing functions. G is global, which is name assigned at the top level, which is x is equal to 25 in this case, and built-in Python, so name pre-assigned in the built-in same module. Okay, so let's take an example of LEGB. Okay, so let's just delete this. Let's say f is equal to lambda x, where x into 2. Okay, so this is local. Okay, now let's talk about enclosing. So this was local. Now let's talk about enclosing. So name is equal to, let's say, global pawan, global baba, global pawan, and we have a function, let's say def greet, and here I am saying name is equal to flash. Okay, so this is enclosing one. Okay, this one was local, this one was enclosing, because this is inside a function. Okay, okay, so we can write here like return name and all, which we did earlier. Fine, so this is something. Now we have this global, and we can have built-in as well, like len is a keyword which we use, so this is built-in. Okay, and there was leg, so local was this was enclosing. What is the global man? So if I'll just say here that print name, then this name is, here it is global. Okay, which is using this one. Okay, so this was local, this was nothing, but after we used here, this is global and this is enclosing. Okay, so this is about the scopes, and this you don't have to go very much deeply inside it, but I just wanted to let you know what are the scopes here in Python. Okay, so now let's move to object-oriented programming, which is the most important topic here. And let's just clear this window. So object-oriented programming, also known as OOPS, tends to be one of the major obstacles for beginners, because when they are first starting to learn Python, they don't understand. So there are many tutorials and available for OOPS, so you can Google it and you can understand it, and I'll also try to explain. So let's talk about objects first of all. So what we will talk about are objects, classes, methods, inheritance, special methods. So let's start by uh, about remembering the basic Python objects. Okay, so for example, L is equal to 1 2 3, it is an object. Okay, so we used to call methods on this list, let's say L dot count. Okay, so what we'll be basically be doing in this particular video is exploring how we could create an object type like a list. We have already learned about how to create function, so let's explore objects in general. So what are objects? Okay, so in Python everything is an object. Okay, remember from previous video we can use type to check the type of object. Something is like, I didn't mention that, I guess. So let's print type of 1. Okay, sorry, 1. So it will give me the type of 1. So in this case it is saying int. Okay, type is int. That is fantastic. I didn't tell you, I remember, but I just missed it, but now I'm telling you. So let's say if this is my way of writing this, I missed something. Print. Okay, let's just say this. Okay, oh, there is so much confusion, guys. So let's print type of this. Okay, now this is fine. Now let's run it. So it gave me list. Again, this is fantastic. Now if I replace this square brackets with this one again, now it will give me tuple. Amazing. And if I write this one, then what it should mean? It should give me a dictionary. Okay, so it is dict. Okay, so this is how we can use type. So we all know these things are objects, so how we can create our own objects. That is the question, and this is where the class keyword comes in. Okay, so we will talk about classes now. So you can say class. Okay, so the user defined objects are created using the class keyword, and the class is a blueprint that defines a nature of a future object. So, and from classes we can construct instances. An instance is a specific object created from a particular class. So that is our definition. Okay, let's talk about it in the real world. So suppose you have seen architectures, right? So there is an architecture who architects a building, so that is a class. Okay, class is basically the architecture of a building, which is a structure basically. Okay, so if you have a structure ready, that is a class. And when you make the original product from that structure, like you have a structure of a building, and when you make that building, then it is an instance of that class, or we can call it an object. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is that blueprint is something like you have seen in movies. There is a blueprint of of a room where hackers want to go and hack all that particular there's a you can say khajana kind of thing. There's a treasure in that particular building, and they first of all made a blueprint of that, and then visit that particular area. Then that area or that room is an object, and that blueprint is a class. Okay, and if you remember watching Shaktiman, then there was Shaktiman. He just breaks into 7 parts, or he just make a clone of himself in 7 parts. So all those 7 parts are his objects. Okay, so you can understand this by this example. So let's create a new object type called sample. Okay, so we'll write class sample. Okay, so this is a class sample. Now we'll just write parse. Okay, and we will make an instance of this sample, x is equal to sample. Okay, so this x is now instance or object of sample. So now let's say print type of x. Let's see what type it returns. Okay, clear, and see type is instance. Okay, so x is an instance. So by convention we give classes a name that start with a capital letter, and note that how x is now the reference to our new instance of a sample class. In other words, we instantiated the sample class. So inside of the class we currently just have pass, which says that you can pass from this, and but we can define class attributes and methods here. And what you must be wondering, what is an attribute? So an attribute is a characteristics of an object, like the color, the name, the age. Those all are attributes. And method is an operation we can perform on the object. So suppose a person is a class, then it can have a color, or he can have a color, a name, age. Those are attributes. And he can walk, which is a method. Okay, he can walk, he can eat, he can sleep. So all of these are methods. So similarly we can have a dog class. Dog can have its breed, its name, and its method can be he can bark. Okay, or well, there can be so many methods. Okay, so how do we create attributes, how do we create methods? And there is a special method also that is called init method, and which method is used to initialize the attributes of an object. For example, let's just delete this and create a class dog. Okay, so we have a class dog here because we took an example, and now we have a method here, special method, which is called init for the initialization of objects. Okay, so first keyword will be here self, and now we can say breed, or we can say breed. Okay, so now let's say self dot breed is equal to breed, which we will pass here. Okay, so this is how we instantiate our attributes. Now let's say we have two kind of dogs. First one is Sam, which is a dog. It's the name of the dog, and we will pass the breed as, let's say, lab. Okay, and another dog is Frank, and his breed is, let's say, breed. What will be breed? Let's say husky. Okay, so these are two dogs, Sam and Frank. One's breed is lab and another's breed is husky. This Sam and Frank keyword here is the instance of the class dog. Okay, so let's break down this more. So there is a special method, this init method. Okay, so it is automatically it is automatically called right after the object has been created. Okay, so we have this def init self comma breed. So each attribute in a class definition begins with a reference to the instance object. So it is by convention named self. So this is the self which I am talking about. The breed is the argument, which is we pass any value to that particular argument. Okay, so when we say self dot breed is equal to breed, which means this self uh, uh, dot breed is equal to that particular argument which we will pass through this method, this call to that particular class. We can also reference to it like a constructor. Okay, so now we have created two instances of dog class. One is Sam and Frank with two breed types. We can then access this attribute like this. So if I want to access, I can say Sam dot breed. Okay, I can say Frank dot breed. Okay, now let's print this to see whether it is working or not. And okay, that is fine. Let's run this and see what will be the output. So you can see lab and husky. So this is how we don't have any parenthesis after breed. Okay, so we don't have to have parenthesis after breed because it is an attribute and doesn't take any arguments. Okay, so we don't have to take any parenthesis. Okay, so in Python there are also class object attributes. So these class object attributes are the same for any instance of the class. For example, we could create the attributes species for the dog class, and dogs, regardless of their breed, name, or other attributes, will always be mammals. So let's say if I define another class object attribute here. So let's say it can have species, which is mammal. Okay, so it will gonna be same for every dog. Okay, so let's say now I want to print Sam dot species. Okay, we don't have to instantiate. See, this is return mammal, so we don't have to specify any attribute to value through this init method. So this is what about class object attribute. So it is defined outside of any method in the class. Also by convention we place them first before the init. Okay, so we have placed it first before the init. Okay, so these are called what we call it, class object attribute. Okay, now we'll talk about the methods. So let's just clean it, and let's say we have a class circle. Okay, now we have a class object attribute as pi 3.14. It is not going to change because, and we can have an init method for instantiating the radius. So we have this self comma radius. Okay, by default it is suppose 1. Okay, now what we can say, self dot radius aja, yes, is equal to radius. Okay, this is our method. Now we can have different methods for calculating the area. So let's say we have def it should be outside of this. So we have another method, area. Init was the special method which we have to use for instantiation of the attributes. So let's say we have an area, we will return here self dot radius into self dot radius. So basically it is r square into pi r square. So circle dot pi. This is how we will access this. So if you remember, the area of circle is pi r square. So r is r square into pi. Okay. Now if I want to set this radius, then I can make a function or method for this as well. So there's a difference between function and method. Method is when we define a function in the class, then it is known as method, and when we use it without class, then it is called a function. So this is many times asked in interviews, what is the difference between function and method. So now method for resetting radius is self comma radius. Now here I can write as self dot radius is equal to this radius. Okay. So similarly we can have another method of get radius. If I want to get the radius, I don't have to pass anything except self. Oh shit. And now here I can say return self dot radius. Okay, so this is about our circle class. Here we have to do this much only, and now I can say there is a C object which is an instance of circle class, and now I can set radius of C. So C dot set radius, and I can pass suppose 2, and now I can print that radius is comma C dot get radius. Okay, fine. And now we can have another thing here, which is print area is, and I can define here C dot area. Okay, so this is how we will make a class and methods there. And now I will run this. So radius is 2 and area is 12.56. Why I have used this comma? I don't need that. I need a plus here. Sorry for that. So let's clear it and run it again. Oh, sorry. What we have did is we have included the plus in the wrong position where we don't actually need them. So we have let's say this should be the proper way of writing this format. Okay, so this is what we should do while formatting anything, so that we don't get any such errors which we got earlier. So yeah, so this is how we can it has how many brackets? I don't know. So let's run this. Oh no, I'm doing right. Syntax error is here. So what's the error? Format. Okay, let's say okay, we have this extra requirement here, and it's again giving me some kind of error. Why? Because maybe I'm skipping something. I don't know. Where is my area? There is my area. It is right, correct. So let's say 0th 1. there should not be any issue. I don't know what's the exact issue. So there is some issue with the code. I'm not able to understand what the exact issue here, but let's figure it out. I am trying to debug it. So let's just say here that I want c dot area. Okay, will it be work? Okay, so I missed something here which was causing the error in next line. I'm so stupid here. So dot format c dot area. So that is the reason why I don't think indentation is a good idea. So here you can see radius is 2, area is 12.56. So this is how we will do the class thing. So this is all about class, how we can use methods, how we can use the attributes, and how we can call them. So now let's move to inheritance, which is again plays an important role. So inheritance is a way to form new classes using classes that have already been defined, like parent-child relationship. So the newly formed class are called derived class, and the classes that we derive from are called base class. So base is parent and derived is child. So basically inheritance, benefit of inheritance is that we can reuse the code, and it is like a reduction of complexity of a program. So the derived class actually overrides or extend the functionality of base class. So that is all about inheritance. So like we can have a parent class which is animal, and we can derive many class like dog or uh, any animal, you can say tiger, or so those all will be its child. So let's say we have a class animal. Okay, we are talking about inheritance here only. So we have a method init self, and let's print here animal created. Okay, and let's say there is a method known as who am I self, and let's print animal. Okay, and another method def eat self, and now we can say print eating. So there are two methods and one init method. Now let's say we have another class which is dog class. Now it inherits from animal, so we will specify animal in brackets. Okay, this is how we will extend animal. Now we will write def init because it should have the init as well. Now we will write animal dot init. Okay, and we will pass the self here. Then we can say print dog created. Okay, like we created the animal first. Now it can have the same methods like this. So I'm just copying and pasting because I am lazy. So I will say dog, and then it is eating, so what it will bark. So another method is bark, so woo woo woof. So this is how dog will work. So now what I can see, I will make an object of dog, and let's call d dot who am I. Okay, d dot eat. So as you can see, eat is not available in dog class, but still we are able to call it, and d dot bark. So let's now clear this first and run this. So you can see first is called animal created, then dog created, then dog who am I eating, and woof. So first this one was called, then this one, then this one, and then this one. Okay, so in this example we had two classes, animal and dog. The animal is the base class, the dog is the derived class, and the derived class inherits the functionality of the base class. That is why we were able to call this eat method, and it is shown by the eat method. So the derived class modifies existing behavior of the base class shown by the whoami method. So it also had whoami, but the derived class overrided it and it printed dog. Okay, so this is all about the inheritance. Like it has a new method as well, bark, which was not available in the base class. So there are some special methods as well, like in Python we can implement certain operation with special method names. These methods are not actually called directly but by Python specific language syntax, like it is a special method string length, and you know, there are multiple methods actually. So we can look into them as well if you want, or we can have this is the basically the part of inheritance. This is what we have to do. Let's take some look into some of the uh, special methods. So let's say we have a class dog. We don't have now animal, so let's delete it. We don't want to need that. Okay, so let's say this dog has a name. Okay, so let's pass a name here. Okay, and we can write self dot name is equal to name. Okay, fine. So we have another, like we have a init method, which is a special method. We can have another method which is called string method, which we will use a lot in Django. So what is this string method do? We can return any string from here, like name is, we can write dot format self dot name. Okay, so this is our string method. We can have length method as well, def length. Oh, and we can write self here as well, and we can return self dot name. Okay, although name should not have the length, so there can be another number nums. Okay, so there can be anything nums is equal to nums, so serve dot nums, which can be another, you know, variable there. Let's delete these two methods, we don't need them. And there can be another special method which is like delete, to delete something, to object or to destroy an object, we use this method. So dog destroyed. Okay, so these are all methods we can use. So now let's call the first name is Sheru, and the numbers are 5 Sheru dogs are there. So we did this. Now we will print first of all D. Let's see what will come. Then we will print length of D, and then we will delete D. Okay, so let's run these methods, this special method. So you can see dog created, name is Sheru, and then there is a problem with length D. So what's the problem? I don't know. Basically length function was not able to, you know, return nums should return an int. Oh, sorry. We have to write 5 here. That's why the error came, because we cannot have a string to give its length here. We have to define an integer. Now let's run it. So dog created, name is Sheru 5 and dog destroyed. So this is how we will do these special methods in object-oriented programming in classes. So this is all about classes. This is all about objects. This is all about what we learned was inheritance. So I hope that you got the basic understanding of object-oriented programming. Now, later on, we will learn about decorators and regular expressions. So, this is all about uh, these things right now. We don't need anything else right now, but in future we will need like errors and exceptions. We will go and catch in the next tutorial some basic things which we will cover. So main things we have already covered, the advanced Python. So that's all, and thank you so much for joining me, and I hope I'll see you in the next video, and we will do some web application development as well. Thank you so much.